There he is, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from blistery cold New Jersey. Uh, Lux Narayan, how are you, sir?
I'm good, sir. It's good to be here. But by the way, that intro sequence, it never goes old on me. I've seen it on your videos. I,
Is
I, I
there
love it.
well,
I love the beats. It's beautiful.
maintaining consistency. That's what it's all about, right? Maintaining consistency. And listen, you deserve it because you got some things going on that I think a lot of folks within either my community, within the circles that I talk to, are going to be interested in. They are just like me, just like the shirt says, creators, right? And want to you want to get one of these shirts, don't
I,
you?
I, I'm going to show my shirt as well. Like,
Okay. I'm gonna get you one
you
of
got
these shirts. They're one of my shirts. Um,
it.
let's start at the beginning though, and thank you, sir, and thank you. I see some other members from your team from being on. I see Tina online, and folks, if you are in the audience, please engage and ask your questions. Let's start with kind of the origin story of not just StreamAlive, but you as well, because I think there's value in knowing kind of your background from a technology perspective. And listen, I could have said in the intro that you're an author, that you're a TED Talk conversationalist, that you're stand up comedian. You do so much, right? So I would love to know about your origin story exactly, and also about the origin story of StreamAlive, why you felt the need to actually produce this platform.
Got it. No, thank you. And about the doing so much, it depends on which side you look at it from. You could call it an extended midlife crisis, or you could call it doing so much. But I enjoy it, man. I enjoy doing different things. It's one life and it's too short, so you've got to try what you want to, right? Uh, you mentioned the TED speaking and stand up comedy, and that's a good segue into something I've already always considered. I think I've been presenting, so to speak, for a living all my life, and whether that's presenting to prospective folks to join our team, or to prospective customers, or to investors, or presenting in a past life in advertising. I've been presenting for a living, and I think there are a lot of people out there who are doing it. Every single creator, I would argue, is in some form or fashion, whether they are on YouTube or Twitch, or whether it's someone who's doing a marketing webinar, or doing a class on Zoom. Everyone's kind of presenting in some form or fashion. So a lot of people talk about this founder market fit, right? And I think I found that very strongly with Stream Alive. So on a personal level, I kind of resonate with what we're building and who we're building it for. To go into the origin story, it's actually interesting. What happened was, you mentioned Tina, and I think Joe might be in the chat as well, and they are two of my co-founders. We're four co-founders altogether in the team. Joe, me, and Tina go back many, many, many decades. And we were prior to Stream Alive, we were all co-founders at a company called Unmetric in the social media benchmarking space. That company got acquired in the end of 2019. Various personal and professional reasons, including a personal family emergency, took a break in 2020. It was also a crazy time, as all of us know, with COVID and everything
Mm-hmm.
happening. And the end of 2020, I came to the realization that I can't sit still in general. So although I was supposed to be on a break for a few months, said I had run out of excuses to write this book that was in my head for a very, very long time. And I was hoping you might ask me about it, so I actually put a copy close to me. I always keep a
I've
copy
listen.
close to me, but
You're going ahead. Man. I've got that in the show notes. We're going to talk about the book. I've got it in the description already. You start selling it, right? You're giving the cart before the horse here. Okay, I'll leave you alone. Okay.
I'm going to wait for you to ask me about that then, dude, because Streamalai was born in the course of writing the book, right?
Okay. Okay.
It was. Do you want me to dive into that now, James? Or
This is listen. This is your time right here, brother. Let's
let's
make it
do it,
happen.
man.
Because again, that origin story, the why of bringing the platform to life, and then how we can start utilizing and taking advantage of what you created. That's what I really want to get into as well. So let's talk about all of that.
Let's do that bit then, because what happened was, over the course of writing the book, I attended a bunch of classes on, how to write a book, how to edit a book, how to market a book, how to get Amazon to bless your book and put it up there
Mm,
in its listings and things like that. And these classes were delivered on live streams, like on YouTube Live for the Amazon marketing class, on what is it, Facebook Live for a couple of classes. There was a podcasting class, there was a online essay writing class and book outlining class, which were done on Zoom webinar and Zoom meeting.
mm,
Long story short, I attended a whole bunch of classes, more than 4 dozen, I think, which had students from between 11 to about 1,200. And that's when you start seeing patterns, right? When you see so many classes in such a compressed period of time, over a period of 6 to 8 weeks, you start seeing some very, very glaring things. For example, the chat would fly by faster than the eye can see,
Yeah.
right? Or the presenter would ask a question like, hey, where are all of you joining from? And about half the audience would not answer, and the other half would enthusiastically answer. And I would say New Jersey, and no one would care, because the presenter would call out, oh, we got someone from London, we got someone from Miami, and let's ignore the remaining 98 people who chose to answer the question, right? That didn't feel right. I mean, I wouldn't ask you a question and then ignore the answer, like and as I'm sure you wouldn't to me or anybody else. But we do it in a large group setting because there isn't a better way to do it. I mean, how do you ask a question and acknowledge every person saying where they're joining from, unless you want to
Right.
sound like a geography teacher, right? So it's going to be weird. So that's when we saw a very interesting opportunity to enable conversation at scale, and enable a presenter or anyone talking to an audience of more than 10 people to
Yeah.
essentially have a conversation at scale, right? And I think we also saw connective tissue with what we did in our previous company, which was an analytics company. And we used to work off Facebook chat and about comments on Twitter and YouTube. So we've been working from a technology perspective on content and distilling meaning from unstructured data and chat data and stuff like that. So this was a very different animal, so to speak, but it was a very interesting problem, because every day hundreds of millions of people are presenting to large groups, and in our opinion all those conversations are broken because most people are being ignored.
I like that. And I resonated on the statement that you mentioned about enabling conversation and engagement at scale, because that is, again, it, there was no blessing of COVID, but the fact that if there was any shining or silver lining of that, is that many folks got into create content creation, into digital publishing, into those types of things where they were reaching out and having virtual and hybrid conversations with people across the globe. So how do we maintain that attention? How do we maintain the conversation, not just with the one-to-one you and me right now, but with the folks that are in the chat, the folks that are online, and things of that nature? And by having that, and when you don't have a whole bunch of moderators, when you don't have a whole bunch of folks on the back end doing the administrative pieces, right? If it's a solopreneur or entrepreneur that's really trying to run that entire show,
Yeah.
maintaining all those aspects of a live event, of a live stream, things of that can be daunting. And something like StreamAlive seems to be looking to fill that gap to keep all aspects of the conversation going. Yeah, not just this one-on-one focused conversation that we're having right now, but also anything that's happening behind the scenes. So I love that piece right there. Um, let me jump ahead a little bit, because I wanted to ask about this a little bit later. But I think when you mention analytics, when you mention at scale, I start thinking about where we are literally today from a information perspective. And I know something that you're working on right now, so get ready to share your screen. Uh, AI, artificial intelligence, and that becoming now more of a relevant conversation. Right. For a while, we thought it was just going to be something that would be used as a tool, as something, as maybe something that we would integrate every now and then. But ChatGPT is real. I write every single one of my YouTube shorts using ChatGPT. I do, right?
Wow.
And right, and then I put it into some platforms, into an applications, and I pull it out. I extrapolate, but again, I utilize those algorithms and that artificial intelligence to write every single YouTube short that I create. I understand that you're looking at also bringing in some of that functionality into this platform. So it's not just bringing up heat maps of me asking the question of the audience, where are you from, and then showing that on screen. And once I get a chance, I'm gonna bring that on, because I see folks already engaging with that. But talk to us a little bit about what StreamAlive does today, right? The functionality that it brings to creators, and then what you're looking to bring forth using some of the technologies that are coming downstream, such as AI, Chat GPT, things of that nature.
Cool.
That's a good. Listen, I'm gonna tap myself on the shoulder. That's a darn good question, brother.
It's a very good question, sir. It's a very good question. So I'm trying to do this in the most sensible chronological order, so to speak, right? The initial thing we set out to solve was, how can you enable a conversation at scale? How can you ensure that presenters can move their audiences from 95% ignored to 95% engaged? And that started off with what we call these visual interactions. that essentially visualize in real time what's happening in the chat. And I know you're going to give a demo of that a little later down in this, James. So I won't get into the full detail on how we do that, but essentially it visualizes the chat, and it does that with the native chat in each platform, which is, I think, the most powerful thing about what we set out to do when we started StreamAlive. Our thinking was this: there are platforms that help audiences engage, but all of them are like me meeting you, James, in a conference, asking you a question, and then you're about to answer, and I say, no, 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 hang on, there's a ballot box outside there next to the cafeteria. Can you put your answer in there, because that's where you're supposed to answer. And that's kind of what we're doing right now with engagement tools. We're sending people to different URLs, to different places, asking them to do browser gymnastics just to maybe tell us what they had for breakfast. So our fundamental thinking from a product perspective was, don't ask people to go to a product, bring the product to the people. So in the case of you're streaming this on multiple platforms, but we support YouTube Live, for example. So anyone
Yeah.
on YouTube Live could chat from the YouTube Live chat. If you were running this on Zoom, someone could type on the Zoom chat or the Zoom webinar chat or the Microsoft Teams chat. And right now we have a list of 18 platforms that our amazing users have requested us to build StreamAlive for. So we've got our work cut out for us. So that's the first part of the platform. And then we kind of expanded it into, from these visual interactions into what can we do before and after that to create a full workflow. So there is a planning part of it, saying, what am I going to ask? I might start with asking people where they're joining from, and then ask them a poll. And oh, you got that up there. Okay.
Imagine that this guy was working behind the scenes. Go.
Yeah, that's a great example. I mean, that there is a live map, and let's assume you're asking people where we're joining from. As they type their answers in the YouTube live chat, we got a couple of people who already answered on the West Coast and the East Coast. So folks in the center, it's feeling pretty lonely there. So if there's anyone from the middle, please fill that out. But as people, it's something beautiful when you acknowledge people, right? Imagine typing, I'm from here in Jersey, and suddenly a little dot comes up in Jersey. I get a micro moment of acknowledgement, which is actually very powerful, and it's a whole lot different from ignoring me altogether. Right? So that's a great example of chat powered visual interactions. We built the ability to plan for these, so I can decide a sequence of what I want to run through. I could say I want to start with this, then I'm going to run a poll where you just type 1 2 3 4 in the answers in YouTube chat, then I run a word cloud, a whole library of interactions. So that's the planning part. And then we had people say, okay, you're listening to the chat, can you do some interesting things like I've got this guy who works with me part-time, and his job is to copy the questions from the chat and put it in a Notion doc so I can address it at the end of it. Guess
Mm,
what? AI can actually recognize a question just based on the intonation. I mean, if there's a question mark at the end of it and good grammar, kudos to you, it becomes a little easier. But even if you don't put a question mark at the end, it's easy to recognize, not easy, but it's possible to recognize a question based on how a sentence is constructed. So let's assume we have 100 people chatting with 500 comments, and 36 of those are questions. StreamAlive will laser pick those questions from there, triage it onto a list, and keep it ready for you to answer towards the end of the session. So I noticed in the beginning you asked people to type Q, and that's a great way of doing it
right.
as well, where they prefix it. But we're trying to make it even easier, saying, let's ask people to behave as humans do, just continue with human behavior, and the platform does the heavy lifting, right? So that's the tracking engagement part of it. Increasing engagement is a very simple recipe. Ask people questions, but more importantly, acknowledge their answers. And when you do that, we've noticed on an average, the number of comments per minute goes up about 10.3 times. So you get a 900% increase in the volume of interactions just by asking questions and acknowledging the answers, right? That's very powerful if you ask me. And the final part is really analyzing the whole thing, and then using that to help you figure out what worked and what didn't, so that you can create a better run of show for the next time that you're doing it.
Gotcha. And
Um,
I see folks that are chiming in, and I know these folks. Appreciate you, Joseph and Tina. And I'm streaming to multiple platforms. Everyone seems to be shy on the other platforms, but that's okay. No one wants to say where they are. I'm not putting any Google Maps video on you. I'm not coming to your house. Um, but that was interesting what you said about the platform being intelligent enough to, again, where, because I would typically have like a ticker running across. They put a Q in front of your comment to verify that it's a question. Um, but let the audience speak as they would normally, and then the platform actually aggregates that, pulls that information. You mentioned about pulling it out and using it as a list of questions to ask during the stream, but you also mentioned something about using something like a Notion or something, maybe even like a ClickUp. Is that functionality built in, or is that just, again, everything's now within StreamAlive to where as those comments and as those questions are pulled in, you aggregate that into the run of show, and then allows the moderator, allows the presenter, the interviewer to pull that, as opposed, it's real time as opposed to subsequent to the event, I guess is what I'm trying to ask. I'm trying to actually see if I can streamline my workflow and actually have all of the questions that come typically from an audience into StreamAlive, answer those questions immediately as opposed to in post later on in the YouTube description or something of that, if that makes sense.
It totally does, and I'm glad you asked that. Very short answer to your question is a big yes, as
Okay.
in it's real time. So at any point in time, StreamAlive is has pulled up all the questions that have happened from the beginning of your session till that point in time,
Hmm.
and put that into a tab which is always accessible. So unlike the other interactions where you might want to run it as a at a point in time,
Yeah.
things like the questions are what we call tracked features, which are happening all through the session all the time, and they're always accessible. So you could click on the question mark and it would say, here are the 4 questions you've gotten so far. And then you could delete a question, or a moderator could go ahead and delete the question. You could tick a question once you've done it. And at the end of the session, you will actually get a report that says, here are all the questions that people asked in the session. So you
Gotcha.
have the
Okay.
end of session thing too, but it's more built for in session, clicking a button and looking at that. And we're taking that in interesting directions. I mean, right now we're starting with questions, but imagine asking people what's your favorite book, and they put an Amazon URL, and as they give URLs, you have an entire bookshelf populating out there saying, this is what my tribe reads, or this is what we listen to, or these are the podcasts we've been listening to.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of interesting directions you can take this in.
No, and especially integrating that into community, right? Because if we're not just stuck on doing the live stream and doing the live events. The real magic happens for a lot of creators, for a lot of us, is afterwards, right? It's just being able to engage and interact, and how that incorporates into something like maybe a Discord or something like Mighty Networks, or whatever, where our community lives. Facebook pages. Not, we don't. I don't like Facebook. So it's one of the other platforms. But again, allowing us to pull and aggregate that information that was collected during the live stream, and then have the conversations later on those other platforms. So I really am intrigued by what you're saying in terms of where you're going with that. Right now, you integrate. You said with Zoom, with Teams. Uh, what else directly is integrated? I almost wonder if that's the main one. Is it something also like maybe like an Ecamm or an OBS or StreamYard, or the streaming platforms that a lot of creators are using right now, vMix or something of that nature? What else do you directly integrate into or with?
At this point, we've been taking the platform direct kind of an approach. So it's
Mm,
been YouTube, Zoom, Zoom meetings, and Zoom webinar, and Microsoft Teams.
okay.
And it's been for about 3 months back, we had people come to us and say, I have a large in-person event. So there was a large tech event happening in the Indian city of Hyderabad in December, and they had about 3,000 participants, and they loved the stream alive interactions. Like, imagine asking a live audience, hey, where have all of you come in from? You've come from all around the world, and having a map populate, except they're not in a Zoom thing to chat with a Zoom session, or on a YouTube session. So there's no online chat, right? So we did something very interesting there, where for about 3 months before that, knowing that this event is coming up, we built a version of the product for in-person events,
Okay.
where people could scan a QR code, because that's the only option for an in-person event, and then they go into a virtual chat room, which is temporal. It's there for that time and space. It's there for the next 1 hour that the event is on for. And at that time, they can chat about anything they want under the sun, because they're all united in that time and space to
Right.
learn about XYZ. So at that point, when the presenter asks a question like, hey, where are you joining from? Their screen suddenly changes to, type in the chat where you're joining from. And they type that like they would in the Zoom chat, or people are typing the YouTube chat.
Okay.
And the same end effect happens. Now, we did that because this was a very prestigious event, and we had a couple of other events that were in person that asked us to power it. But to be candid, the reason we also did that is because we wanted to take the first step towards hybrid events.
Okay.
And we're already seeing that. We've got a large company, for example, in the EMEA region that had a recent event with 700 people, 200 of whom were in person and 500 were on Zoom. So now imagine the in-person people, interacting with their phones, and the Zoom folks interacting with the Zoom chat, and everybody being a part of the same conversation. Because whether a person is typing on the phone or they're typing on Zoom, a timestamp can sandwich this person online and this person offline, one
Hmm.
after the other, so you can have one seamless conversation. And that's a good segue into the direction we might want to take with the streaming platforms as well. Once we do this, you can in effect say comment from Facebook or YouTube or in person or wherever, and all of those come in together one after the other, and they populate that same map or poll or whatever, right? So
Interesting.
we're looking at going down that direction. And I think there's a very obvious integration opportunity. I mean, we've spoken about this before, and we're part of some of the same communities like Ecamm and some of the others, where uh, it makes sense to integrate with some of those platforms because they're already connected with those destination channels. We haven't gone down that path yet. So right now someone needs to use an Ecamm or a Restream or a StreamYard to stream onto wherever they're streaming, and separately connect StreamAlive with that destination, whether
Okay.
it's
Okay.
YouTube or whatever, right?
So that's exactly what I was trying to do when I went off screen just now was actually, and hey, let's just do a live demo, right? I'm trying to bring up the actual widget of the map, right, of everyone that's chiming in and saying where they're coming from, and using some Ecamm functionality, but bringing up that map right here, it just brings up this black screen. So that integration piece, right? Making that just a little bit more clean, right? As opposed to me having to bring up a separate window. And I was just wondering how that could work. Um, and the fact that it's not happening right now, right? So again, I bet, so if we were probably coming in through WebEx, or if we were coming in through Teams, that integration would have probably happened a little bit more easily. But the way that I can get it to work, right, is bringing it up just as a separate as a web page, as opposed to kind of an interactive widget. So now we can see and show, but again, it takes up quite a bit of real estate on the screen, and just the aesthetic pieces of that just would be something like me, a producer, would have to work around and work through. So if I can make a request on the roadmap to make that integration happen, that would
Oh,
be cool.
absolutely.
Is
Absolutely, it makes
Joseph
sense.
and Tina paying attention, taking notes right now? Write that down, right there. When Lux is out writing books and giving TED talks, you guys find no, okay,
No, but you're absolutely right. I mean, it's also in line with our philosophy, right, of making things frictionless. So if you dial back to what I said earlier, saying we're asking people not to have to go somewhere else just to answer a question and make it as easy for them. We started off with making things easy for the audience, and I think the next phase of that is making things even easier for the presenter to natively
mm,
integrate with PowerPoint or Teams or with WebEx or with Ecamm and all of the other platforms. So you can pull a widget instead of having to pull a browser tab as you do right now. But it is certainly on our roadmap, and heard you loud and clear on that. I think it's important to do that. And in the last, just dialing back to a question you asked me earlier, in the last many months, we've been having a lot of live streamers users of
mm.
for different purposes. They've been, I mean, you had people use this for soccer watch-alongs and F1 racing
Oh wow,
commentary, and for teaching and for entertaining, and teachers, preachers, sellers, entertainers, all kinds of use cases, which has been amazing. I mean, one of the most amazing recent use cases was a doctor in the UK who said they're training doctors in hematology using StreamAlive
wow.
because they're finding retention is much higher when people are interacting and having a two-way conversation. And hey, if that gives me the right to say that StreamAlive makes better doctors, I'll take it, right? So,
That is
but
pretty cool.
it's we're thrilled about it. I mean, all of us. And what we've been seeing is that there's a big ecosystem of, for lack of a better term, I call them slide streamers. People who are
Mm,
streaming live on a Zoom or a Zoom webinar,
yeah.
but using slides, right? So they came up to us some months back and said, I love StreamAlive, but I hate the fact that I've got to show my slides on Google Slides or PowerPoint or Keynote or whatever, and then Alt tab to my interactions and
Yep.
then come back. So I don't know if you saw this because it happened since the time we caught up last, James, but we now have the ability to ingest an entire PDF, and then almost like a multiple layer sandwich, you can say, here are my slides and here are my interactions, and put them one after the other. So you can have one seamless run of show that has slides, interactions, and the central ethos is pretty simple. We want to move these presenters from talking to talking, listening. And that listening part is what StreamAlive is powering. And if you have the time, I'd love to show some of the crazy things we're doing there, where Chat GPT and GPT-3 can do some pretty cool things in terms of creating some funky run of shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I was logged into my run of show environment right here on the screen, but I would much prefer to have you do it with whatever you've got new on the platform as well. But let me ask this before you go into that, because I know you were recently on AppSumo, right? And I'm just curious in terms of what the engagement was from there and what kind of the response was from there, because you get so many folks, the entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and things like that, coming into that platform looking for, and I'll say it, software that is early stage, right? Software that is about 70-80% done, but we're okay with that. We're willing to invest early into platforms and companies that we feel are doing the right thing, or going to be doing the right thing, and have a roadmap that states that. I assume that it was successful, because I think it's already ended. But some of the feedback that you received from the AppSumo audience can be different than just the content creator and the digital publisher feedback. So I'm just wondering if you could expose or share a little bit about what has that changed some of your roadmap, just being part of that community and being on that platform for 3 months or however long that you were on there, and what has that done with your roadmap in terms of what you're going to be doing?
So we actually launched and earned our first dollar with AppSumo, and I have a very high
That is
regard
too
for
cool,
Sumo
man.
links.
That is too
Yeah, I mean,
cool.
yeah, right. So it's beautiful. I mean, I bought software on AppSumo for the last 10 years, and I love the platform. So when they reached out to us, we thought it was a fantastic way to launch monetization. And we've seen many platforms be exactly what you said, 70% there and launch, which I guess is par for the course. But we decided that we wouldn't launch till we were at least in that point in roadmap, at least 90% there, because we wanted to give a polished product and have that in the hands of people. And it's great to see people actually reflect that back to us. So if you see the comments that came up from the AppSumo community, a lot of them were like, oh wow, this is pretty tight and polished and stuff. Yes, but can you build A, B, C, D and stuff? It was phenomenal feedback. And our belief is that whether someone pays you $1 or they pay you $100,000, or they don't even pay you anything, if they invest with their time to spend time on your product, they have the right to tell you what you need to do and what you should do better, because they have spent their time or their money or both on it, right? So we got fantastic feedback. I think if you count the number of questions, we had a little more than 90 questions, a whole bunch of reviews, and I'm thrilled to see that each and every one of those reviews was a 5-star review, which is, you say it doesn't matter and stuff, but it does, and it feels nice when
It
you get a
matters,
5-star
right?
thing.
Right.
That it
It
matters,
matters.
right? It feels good, right? When and the doctor I mentioned a little while back, I think he found us on AppSumo and then used it and then came back and told us about how we've changed the way he's training other doctors. And we had so many other little stories like this, and people jump on calls with us. So every email that goes out to users, AppSumo or otherwise, encourages people to carve out some time on my calendar or Tina's calendar or Joe's calendar. And we've spoken to over 200 of our users one on one, and
Love it.
that's we learn from it, right? I mean, each of those, the conversation we had many months ago.
Yes,
I don't know if you remember, you actually told us about that spinning wheel and
I
things and
did.
all
I
that,
did. Yes, yes.
and you
And
see it in the product here, right?
well, let's do a demo, man. You got your screen loaded up there, but that right there is what I wanted to hear, and especially for the audience, again, for the creators. So I kind of led you in a particular way there. I wanted to hear. I wanted everyone else to hear you say that, right? That it's been positive. Yes, there's been some feedback. Yes, it's been mainly constructive, which is great. But you're continuing to keep your foot on the accelerator, right? You're continuing to build out the platform and give the audience and give those who have vested their dollars and cents into StreamAlive what they're looking for. It may not come today, Might not come tomorrow, but it's coming because it's on that roadmap. So I kind of just wanted to not assume, but I wanted to have that conversation. So folks, again, either watching now or watching on the replay, understand that StreamAlive is a valid platform to look at for engagement with your audience and your community. So I'm selling for you, man. I
Thank you, man.
listen. Put me on the payroll. I don't know what. Well, we'll talk about that after we get offline.
Yes,
Ray
and yeah,
Cooks, I see you
when
from
the
Berlin. Listen, we are pretty global today. We got Berlin, we've got Enda from Ireland. Tina's just
nice.
traveling. I don't know what she's doing. She is teleporting from all over the place, but that's all right though. Pack lightly, but continue to do what you're doing. Appreciate you checking in everywhere you can. Love it. I love it.
So let me tell you a little thing. Tina, besides being our chief operating officer, is
Yeah.
also our chief chat officer or chief comment officer because she is trigger happy on that keyboard and she
Listen, man.
stress tests the product in on every single opportunity she gets. So as far as she's concerned, she's enjoying your show. And okay, one more opportunity to stress test StreamAlive. So I'm going
I
to fly
love
all
it.
around the
I
world
love
and
it.
put
I
that in.
listen. I'll take it. Any kudos like that, I'll take. Right. So that's all good. So let's go ahead and bring up the screen where you were going to share some of that additional functionality, and maybe even talk about now. Let's talk about some of those run of show templates that you've got built in.
Let me do that. And I'm off the screen, but hopefully you can see my screen now. I'm just going to move around a little bit. So first thing over here, I'm actually in our test server. So if things break, this is not our production
Yeah.
server. So don't panic. Yeah, this is where we move fast and break things, so to speak. So as we said earlier, we got all these different platforms that we support, and we got this thing called Run of Show where you can create a template. I've got one I've already called sample deck, but let's create a new template, right? So let's call it James template. I'm creating James template, and I can add slides to this. So I can select a PDF. I can import any PDF. I've got one here. James, you like comedy?
Definitely.
All right. So I've got a couple of things here on comedy. I don't even remember what the slides say, but let's put that in. Okay. This was me pretending to do a comedy workshop. So I've got a couple of slides here. And let's say at this point, between slide one and slide two, I want to ask the audience a question. I want to ask them a poll. So we've got all these different interactions, growing library of things you can do, polls and maps and word clouds and the choice circle, which you remember we talked about it, like the wheel of names and stuff, where it just
Yeah.
spins a bunch of names. And that's going in some very interesting directions. Transient thoughts, which is almost like listening to people's thought blurbs, and quick questions is what we talked about a little while earlier. This is identical to what you have in your run of show right now. But here's where my run of show is a little different from what anyone has, because when I click on the polls, what kind of question should I ask about comedy? So let's say James, you and I are deciding what to do for this, and we're trying to think what kind of question can we ask people about stand-up comedy or improv comedy. And here's the thing: you don't have to think too hard because we've got embedded AI to help us here with suggestions from GPT-3. So this is what we're playing around with, where I could say, and fingers
So hold
crossed, I
on,
hope
no.
this
So
works.
don't just fly over that right there, right? Just what you said right
I feel
there.
back.
No, what you said right there again resonates and is incredibly timely. So you've already got functionality and integration with ChatGPT, the right the bell of the ball in terms of artificial intelligence and integration and what folks are utilizing. You've already got that integrated into StreamAlive to help what craft questions and craft conversation and craft engagement opportunities. So that's already. I know you're in test environment right now, but let's just say 2 hours after we get go live, someone signs up for StreamLive. When will that type of functionality be something that they can expect to see within their dashboard? Because that right there, that's hot.
I think it is, and no pressure on Joe and any others in
Oh
our
no,
team
there's
who are
pressure.
listening
Oh
in,
no, there's
but
pressure. You can't
later,
just you can't just lob that over the fence there and just expect me not to bite on that one. Okay.
later this month, James, is what we're hoping
Okay,
for.
there we go. We've got the confirmation right there. Okay, I'm sorry to put you on the spot there, but okay. Now you may continue, sir.
Thank you. Right. So let's assume you and I can't think of, for the life of us, think of a great question to ask people who want to start a career in comedy or who want to learn something about comedy. I'm going to click on this, which basically invokes GPT-3 to help me with those suggestions. So
Wow.
excuse the UI, it's still stuff you're playing around with. It's not as polished as we want, but it works hopefully. So let's say I need suggestions for this is a class on what are we doing, James? Stand-up comedy or improv comedy or some
Let's
other
do
form of
improv.
comedy?
I know you got some history and some experience with that, so let's stay in your wheelhouse.
Thank you. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Right. So at this point, it's actually it's an embedded use case where it's looking into Chat GPT to pull up. Look at that. All
Hold
of them
on.
are.
That's crazy talk. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. I'm gonna cover your face so make sure folks can see a little bit. I don't want to be rude and cover your face. I just there we go. What
Listen, if
type
you
of
got to choose
improv
between my face
comedy
and
do you
StreamAlive, put
prefer?
that out.
What do you think is the most important elements of improv? When performing improv comedy, which of the following do you find the most challenging? So those are on point requirements and suggestions right there, and options. So that's okay. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
And just imagine using this to generate a whole bunch of things with your run of show. So I could say, okay, this one is pretty on number three is pretty on point for something I want to ask in the beginning of a workshop because it tells me, do I need to focus the rest of it on generating ideas or how to
Yeah.
be spontaneous or working with a team? So I'm going to select that question and boom, the question, the options
Wow.
are all pulled in there. I hit save and it's a part of my run of show.
It is. Wow. That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. Okay.
And you can do this as you saw in the use case. We're just starting it off with polls, but we're going to pull it into everything else as well. You can use it for meetings, for all hands. So let's say you're a large company and you're having an all hands, and I think more and more large companies should be talking about inclusivity and diversity. And I want to know what I should be asking people. Ideally, hopefully, I know what I want to ask people. But if I want some help with the kind of things that make sense, here are options. Right? Don't like them, hit go again. It's going to pull three new options for you
Mm-hmm.
till you hopefully find something you like, and then you add it into your run of show. And once you create a run of show, you can run that on Teams, on Zoom, on YouTube, on just about anything you want. And I think the possibilities are very, very powerful. Again, this is going to be a little weird because we're asking something on comedy and then we're asking something on inclusivity. This is not the typical run of show, but
we're,
it's a James template. Yeah, so it's
we're
okay.
not breaking StreamAlive. We're breaking GPT. So while that's running, but let me ask this. And again, here's a platform question from your side. These API pools. Uh, is there going to be a limit, or has that even been discussed as a possibility for users of StreamAlive going out and asking these inquiries of GPT? I mean, is that API pool cost somebody? Cost you, right? And I know they've just launched a premium or a pro offering of the AI intelligence engine. Are we going to have like 100 pools a month, 100 pools a week? What is that been thought of yet, or is that even something that I need to be concerned about and considering at this point?
It's been thought about a little bit. Do you need to be concerned? No, you don't,
Okay.
because it's not like you'd be pulling this all the time. But yes, there would be a cap because there is a very direct attributable
Yeah.
cost to us with
Yeah.
using GPT-3. We don't see ourselves using Chat GPT yet because that's for conversation, which we're not doing over here. We're using a very specific embedded case of GPT-3,
Okay.
which also costs us money because they have a certain amount of money they charge you per thousand pulls. But we expect that to be absorbed into the cost of a license because last thing you want to do is make it complicated where you'll be charged this much for every incremental. We want to make it simple. A free license might have very few pulls,
Okay.
and then after that you expect it to pay for it, within which, depending on the plan you have, that there is a certain cap on it.
Good.
But again, it's not like once if you have a person teaching comedy, you might think of this a couple of times, come up with a workshop thing, and then you'll probably run with that for the next month or so before you think about changing your script altogether.
Yeah,
So we
you'll
think
build your
it should be pretty
framework
constant.
using this intelligence and get some additional ideas, kind of like a mind map, and then you'll move on and grow from that. But so I appreciate that, and again, I never want to assume, which is why I asked that question, because again, 30 minutes after we're live, someone's going to say, "Oh, I can pull from GPT all day, every day," but there are some. I really have likened on to this statement that people pay attention to what they pay for. Right. So, there's value in having maybe a cap, a tier, or something of that nature, or where we actually are charged as users. So I think there's value in having some type of monetization on your side. So, okay.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean raise the prices or anything, but that just
No plans of doing that. Yeah. Just a quick point, James, while we are on the runner show, this was the first cut we had where, when you log into StreamAlive, you have half a dozen different runs or shows, which were
yes.
static things that we did, where we'd say, okay, if you're doing a product marketing webinar or a company town hall or a just chatting AMA live stream, here is a typical template. And this takes a life of its own now with the GPT-3 integration, which is why I was excited to show it to you, because it's all of 48 hours old in our labs.
Oh
So it's
wow,
never been shown publicly before.
excellent. Well, I'm glad it worked. I appreciate showing it here, and I'm glad it worked without any hitch. Then there we go. There we
Yes.
go. Good, good job, Joe. Good job, Tina. No. So we want to know. We want more now, right? We being the consumers, we see this and it's phenomenal. It's fantastic. It's still baking in the oven, but and we see the maps. We see the word clouds and things like that nature. But what's next? Additional types of intelligent integrations, right? Where are we going along with that? Again, we haven't even got this yet, and here I am asking for something else new. But again, that's just the nature of the beast in terms of you've given so much and you've shown some incredible potential. Are there any things that are not under NDA that you can say in terms of additional intelligent type of integrations that StreamLive is going to have in the short and or midterm?
Yep. And just to react on the last part you said, I mean, not under NDA I prefer putting things out there as much as possible, irrespective of the risk that, oh, you might have competitors listening to it and stuff, because I think it's kind of totally offset by the fact that you have potential users listening to it and who will come back
Mm-hmm.
and tell you, okay, this is a crappy idea, or this is a fantastic idea, or haven't you thought about this? And that kind of feedback is invaluable. So we are fans of put as much as you can out there and have people react to it.
That's
So
it.
happy to share as much. If you have another hour or so to go where we can talk about all our features, but hey, just kidding.
We'll do
We'll
that. We'll
cover
do round two. We'll do round
round
two
two.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, so let me actually just totally switch tracks. Yeah. My grandfather, God rest his soul, in a southern city of India called Chennai, he started the first English public speaking class in 1979, right, where
Wow.
he taught people how to do public speaking. It's called the Effective Public Speaking Institute, and it's still on and still running, and his son still runs it. The reason I bring my grandfather into this conversation is because I remember one thing he told me, which a lot of speakers like you intuitively know, I'm sure. And this was me as a teenager learning the basics of public speaking, and he said every 5 minutes ask your audience a question,
Mm-hmm.
right? And ask them to first time around raise their right hand, next time tell them specifically to raise their left hand, and then ask them to stand up, and then ask the people who are standing up to sit down. What he was saying was invoke movement, invoke
Yeah.
interactions, right? And the interesting thing is all of those things, whether it's the raising of a hand or a standing up or a sitting down, is a binary reaction. You can see 30% of the class is sitting down, or 75% of the class raise their right hand and 20% raise their left hand. It's all binary.
Yeah.
So the way we see it is we're kind of doing the same thing my grandfather did 40 years ago, except we're doing it with chat, which suddenly gives you so much more color. So we're constantly thinking, what other color can you take human conversation into? So maps as a very organic thing where, and again with the maps thing, we just talked about how people type their location and it comes in, but I don't know if you've checked this out, James. It works a lot with human conversation. So if you were to say hi from NYC, it would ignore the hi from and just map you out on NYC. Or you say I'm in Cape Town, it would plot you in Cape Town straight away. So a lot of it is
Okay.
working with human conversation. So that's one direction we're going to continue to go with. But on the feature specifically, I think there's a lot of fantastic things you can do. So we talked about the chat GPT stuff that we're doing and things. Let me just share maybe two, because as you know, I can go on and on with this in terms of everything going on.
Love
But
it.
let
I
me share
love the
two things.
passion, right? Again, I love the fact that you're passionate about what you're building. You got to be. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you got it. I'll share two just in the interest of time. I'll tell you one from the track bucket of things and one from the increase engagement bucket of things,
Okay.
right? So track is the path that's literally like StreamAlive being a fly on the wall, a human fly on the wall, so to speak, listening to what's happening in the conversation and making sense of it to help the presenter. Now, here's another thing we're going to do with track. It's kind of related to the wheel of names thing we talked about earlier.
Hmm.
Track can look at the chat and say, here are the 15 people who've commented at least once from the beginning of this session up to this point. So at any point, you could press a button and it pulls up a wheel or something that looks like a Vegas jackpot machine, depending on what Joe and Tina decide. But it's going to be one of those things where all the names of all the people who've interacted from the beginning of the session till then. So posting at least one comment is your ticket to the lottery,
Okay.
right? And all those names are going to be automatically put in there, so you don't need to type people's names and write Lux and Joe and Tina and Peter and Kumar and whatever. It's all going to be out there, and you press a button, it spins there and say, okay, John wins a prize, or something like that. So that's one example of prompting interactivity by rewarding participation, and it's based on tracking the chat and seeing who's interacted till that point in time.
Love that. Love that.
I think it can be pretty beautiful.
I was thinking when you said that, because Amazon just slapped a lot of us on the wrist for doing giveaways during Amazon Lives. And a lot of creators that I know were giving, right? You participate in the chat, you're engaged, you ask questions, and here's a $10 Amazon gift card. But we kind of got slapped on the wrist for that. But I still see there could be possibilities of at least integrating this into those types of conversations, those types of engagements where you want to reward. I could give a promo for swag, for merch, right? Again, people comment enough, or they say something, they answer a question. Here's that, we spin the wheel, and here's your promo code. So I can still see this being taken advantage of and utilized, not just in the Restream and the StreamYards and the eCams, but again in those large corporate events as well. So the WebExes, the Teams, the Zooms, and things of that nature. So I'm just thinking aloud again that this in its infancy stage still has great increased potential. So that's good stuff.
I think so too. I mean, I don't know this is news to me about Amazon slapping it, but there's
Oh yeah,
plenty
they
of other
slapped this. Oh
opportunities.
yeah, I'll
Wow,
send you.
it's
I'll show
crazy.
you the email.
Please. Oh, wow. Okay.
There's
But I mean,
always
look at
we can work our way
gamers,
around
right?
it though. We
We
can
can
we
work
can
around
figure
that.
something
Yeah.
out. We can figure
Uh,
something out.
and there's gamers, right? They get a whole bunch of in-game
Yeah.
merch that they are actually asked to give away. So how do you choose who to give it away when you got 200 people commenting out there? I mean, you got to be democratic about it. So that's an interesting use case of track. Jumping onto the increased engagement, one of the features that's going to come out is one where you can't answer text at all. You can only answer with emojis. I think it's called emojis everywhere. So you can only just imagine a happy wall of emojis with hopefully more happy faces and sad faces, things like that. It's all about infusing fun into it as well. There's another one which
I'll have to change some of my automated moderation, because right now I got some moderation that says if you comment with too many emojis, then you get kind of put on timeout. So let me know when that
oh
comes out so I can drill down some of my requirements and my rules for automatic chat
I'll give you a
modification.
heads up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other one is I think this is pretty interesting too. Let's assume I'm teaching stand-up comedy, the example we did
Mm.
earlier, okay? And I ask the class in the beginning, saying on a level of 1 to 5, where 5 is like your Seinfeld or something like that, and 1 is like you the moment I bring you near a stage, you start to get you start shivering with fear. Where are you in your comfort level with stand-up comedy, right? And that's a classic question that in a before after, where I'm going to teach you a skill, you want to ask people that thing, and hopefully if you've done your job right, that number is going to go up by the end of it.
Right. Right.
So imagine asking the class, hey, everybody on a level of 1 to 5, type your thing. And people type their answers from 1 to 5. And as they type ones and twos and threes and fours and fives, you remember those graphic equalizers that used to come with the tape recorders and the music systems where the things go up and down?
Well, you just
Just
dated
imagine.
both of us just now. Yeah, I'm pretty old as well. There you go. That's good stuff. Yes, sir.
Okay, children in the house, please look up graphic
They don't know.
equalizers.
Yeah, yeah. Google that. Right. Yeah.
Google that, yeah, or ask ChatGPT to show you a graphic equalizer, right? But imagine those things. Imagine those bars going up and down with the ones and twos and threes. So you see literally skyscrapers of dots and psychedelic little lights, and then finally it says the average for the class in terms of comfort level is 2.3, and then
Okay.
you do your number, and hopefully it goes to 3.4 or 4 point something and doesn't go down. If it goes down, you have a larger problem. But you get the gist. So that's a great example of calculating the real time average of a group, and doing the math and saying this is the average for the group, right?
That's
Uh,
really cool to hear that that's either there or being built into the platform. And I resonated and I switched scenes just now for a reason because what you were talking about, the power of having engagement and conversation happening via emojis and via flashes on a map. I don't know if you've noticed every time I switch a scene, again, it's more for the visual perspective. You're on the left sometimes, I'm on the right, I'm bigger, you're smaller, whatever the case may be. And it's for that exact same reason, right? That it actually clicks, it's not a dopamine hit, but it clicks something within the viewer's mind is to want to stay engaged for 30 more seconds. Right now, James is on the left. Now Lux is over here on the right, or that type of thing. So it's a conscious move that I do on live
for
streams and live sessions to move everything about the screen as well. So I think again, integrating that piece and integrating kind of that movement within the webcam scenes, bringing integration of asking questions, bringing up word clouds, bringing up live and interactive maps, chat gpt, all of that as well is just going to help digital creators, content creators, live streamers, whomever, increase that engagement with their audience and maybe elongate some of those sessions, right? A session that would have only been 10, 15 minutes or so. You've got so many questions, you got so many comments, you got so much engagement that now you've turned it into 30, 45, 60 minutes of really valuable content that you're delivering to your community. So I just wanted to tie that in because I see where you're going and I appreciate where you're going. And I, again, also consciously do that within my streams to
right.
move things across the canvas. So that's good stuff.
Thank you for the tip. I think we should do that as well when we do that. I mean, we normally stick to a fixed format on web. I think it's good to move things around for exactly the reasons that you said, right?
Definitely,
It's
definitely. Let me ask you this again. I'm going to be cognizant of your time, sir. But I've already made the statement about again, people pay attention to what they pay for. So let's talk about again where we are from a consumer's perspective, wanting to bring in StreamAlive into their environment, and talk to us about are there tiers, are there pricing structures, and things of that nature. And in full disclosure, folks, I actually have been granted a pro environment on StreamAlive, so I am taking advantage of that, and I will be ingraining more of those functionalities into my streams. So again, I appreciate the team for allowing me to partner with them on that capability. But talk to us a little bit about the go forward strategy in terms of pricing and how content creators, digital creators can integrate StreamAlive into their environments.
so we talked about AppSumo a little while back, and that's a good segue into this. As preparation for that, we talked to a lot of our users just to figure out what kind of vectors were important for them, and the most obvious one is the audience size, right? So audience size is the single largest determinant of pricing. But as we're learning from people, there are other features and things that people think can be a part of higher tiers, which has been a learning process for us. So some of the things that get enabled, or features that get enabled with higher tiers, are things like the customization in terms of colors. That's very important to a lot of folks to make the stream alive. I mean, as you can see, we are colors. We are big fans of black, and not everyone likes that. And you want to change the colors to reflect your brand and your colors, and you can do all of those things as well with the higher tiers of plans. The even higher ones allow you to actually put your logo out there and do more things. Chat GPT and other premium features will be at higher volumes on the higher plans. But really, we're trying to keep it simple. So we've been trying to figure out a way to have tiers of plans that allow people to have an estimate of what their audiences are. At the same time, we're trying to avoid a scenario where, let's say, someone has paid for a plan that has a max cap of 500 people. Now, if that person has a surprise attendance for their live stream and they get 800 people, it's very discordant with our philosophy as a company to say, "Hey, your live stream was a huge hit, but we're going to penalize you because you didn't pay us for more than 500 people, so we're going to ignore the remaining 300 people." So right now, honestly, James, you're trying to figure the most graceful way that makes it good for people, at the same time makes it sensible for us as a business. So we started off with those plans, and thanks for bringing them up. It's about a $19 per month payable annually, so that's a $228 a year plan, which is a paid plan that allows you to have up to 100 attendees on Zoom or Teams, and three times that on YouTube and Twitch when we launch it. And then we got a pro plan, which is roughly about double that, but the audience size goes up to five times. So you can have up to 500 participants on Zoom or Teams, and about 1,500 on YouTube Live. And I think that plan, which is what you said you're on, is something that addresses the use case of many people. So we expect most people to be between basic and pro. Of course, if you have less than 50 attendants and you're not too fussed about branding and things, you can go with the free plan. There are caps on the number of hours you can use it every month, because the APIs cost us time, effort, and money. So it's really a function of how big you see your audience and interaction, and how important some of those features are. But the plan is to start introducing some higher tiers of plans that will have more features, larger audiences. I mean, we've been tested for up to 40,000 concurrent people on YouTube and more, and more than 3,000 people in a real-time audience, and on Zoom it's again thousands of people. So the platform scales from a technology perspective. It's just that we launch with these initial plans, and we'll introduce the other plans in about a couple of weeks or so.
Okay. And so let me ask this from a final question perspective. And I didn't see it because I didn't read like I probably should have. I probably should have asked the question of Tina. She probably would have helped me out. Having multiple interactions at one time, right? Can I have the magic map running like in a widget or in an environment? And can I also have the kind of the word cloud pulling questions and engage and an interaction as well? Can I have multiple interactions running when I tie a stream to StreamAlive? Can I have multiple things that are being aggregated at the exact same time? I didn't see how I could do that.
It's a bit of a complicated answer, which is yes and no. And the reason it's a yes
Okay.
and no is you can have the track features like quick questions and pulling up the links and pulling up the books that people put. Those are resident features that are just reading the chat and figuring out intelligently what people are saying. Those can happen concurrently, where it will say, here are the 5 questions, here are the 8 Amazon book links that people have given, and here are the 4 podcasts that they've shared, and the 6 songs that they like. That's going to happen concurrently.
Okay.
But things like the maps and the word cloud are by design built for happening sequentially. So you cannot have the
Okay.
map and the word cloud happening at the same time, because you're saying from this point to this point, StreamAlive, I want you to be in a frame of mind where you're listening for locations. So when James says hi from Florida, you want to ignore the hi from, because you're only interested in Florida, which is a location, because hi
Got
from
you.
is not a location. So you
Got
need
you.
to tell StreamAlive what frame of mind it needs to be in. Should it be listening for emojis, where once James says okay to emojis being allowed on his chat? Should it be listening for locations? Should it be listening for 1, 2, 3, 4 if you're running a poll with 4 options? So you need to set that context. And that's why there's a start point and a stop point, and it needs to be discrete. So you need to run the
Okay.
interactions. I mean, the thinking is just like you would not show 2 slides at the same time. You would not
Yeah.
run 2 interactions at the same time.
Got you. Got you. Appreciate you for making that clear. Lux, listen, man, you guys are doing something pretty good. Right, you guys are
Thank you.
filling a niche, filling a gap that I think that I know a lot of creators are looking to fill. Right, because I see one of my colleagues, tall boy Corey Sanders. He's on there and he runs a very full and engaged consumer technology show on Wednesday evenings, and there's a lot of engagement going on. And to bring up something like a Stream Live to say, hey, where are you dialing in from? What are these keywords that I can use to pull in conversation and questions? This would just make so much sense. I'm trying to get him off of VMix. I'm trying to get him on the Ecamm, but that's a whole nother conversation. But using platforms like this to drive engagement amongst community is really where it is. That's the value that we as creators want to bring. StreamAlive is providing that, and I'm glad that we had this opportunity to show it to folks as well. In closing, sir, tell us where we can find you, where folks can get additional information about StreamAlive, and then just for me, tell me if you're doing any more comedy shows in the near future, brother. That's all I want to know.
It's let me answer the last part first, right? We have these weekly all hands with the team at StreamAlive, and the first all hands we had in 2023, we ran our transient thoughts module where we asked people what are your 2023 resolutions, and mine was to write more comedy this year. So if you're up for some bad comedy, there should be something happening by the middle of the year, but I'll keep you posted. On the other parts, the best way to find us really is StreamAlive.com. So StreamAlive.com has free access to StreamAlive. Sign up for a free trial. You can see videos of how we are used by different use cases on town halls, on live streams by gamers and other folks. So you get a sense of how it is. So StreamAlive.com. It's very, very easy to get in touch with us from the website. There are a bunch of options over there. We also have a YouTube channel that has a whole bunch of use cases and short videos on how people have done some amazing things and use StreamLive as a canvas to have conversations with your folks. But that's the best way. And if you want to personally connect with me, it's Lux Narayan and luxnarayan.com.
Beautiful.
Thank you,
Sir,
James.
there we go. All right. I'm going to go in here and build out some more, not heat maps, magic maps. Oh, yeah. I don't know if you've trademarked that statement, but I'm going to go ahead and build some more magic maps and do some word clouds here for my next stream tomorrow. Appreciate you, sir, for your time. Appreciate you for the efforts and for building this platform. Because, again, it's filling a niche, filling an empty spot within the engagement activities that we do with our community. So I think you're going to be incredibly successful, and I look forward to seeing you continue to grow and evolve.
Thank you very much. I've got a bunch of talented colleagues who've built the platform, but I'm happy to take credit for all of them. But thank you so much.
You got it, man. Take care, everyone. If you found value in this, please share it. If you did not find value, share it with me and let me know so we can continue to get better. And I will see you on the next one.